Hello, everyone, and welcome to another and a special episode of What Do You Call It podcast. I'm your host, GB. Unfortunately, football did not come home, but we may discuss that because I think some of us are still a bit down about that result, F the referee. Today's guest, however, is an actor, a screenwriter, a director of fugitive films production, and a star of the hit gangster thriller, The Last Heist. If you see my social media, you know, like, it was a big deal to me. It's done really well. You can obviously stream it now on most platforms, but we will get into that later on. But please give up.
Also a failed footballer as well.
What?
Yeah, fouled. I think I've got tendonitis at the minute. Otherwise, I might have been on the plane.
Really?
Yeah, could have made all the difference. So Southgate rang me up, went, mate, dodgy you off. If it was in the summer when it was meant to happen, I'd have been on the plane. So that's what I'm.
Mate. So you would have been sad for the players as well that came home.
Yeah, I'll be on the flight now. Yeah.
Honest, I know you are a passionate football fan. I want to talk to you about Leeds.
Yes.
So the reason why I want to speak to you about Leeds is, how do you feel about Leeds United this season?
Right. Well, controversially, I weren't a big fan of Bielsa. I know Leeds United fans loved him. I couldn't stand him. I thought he was great. Yeah, he done my nutting. He absolutely done same mistakes.
Yeah.
Week in, week out, he'd bring on a left back and bring on, like, I don't know, a PT guy. It was just mental. So I love Jesse Marsh. I think there's an improvement. Love the players he's brought in. And I think we're going the right way.
Yeah.
I'm actually working closely with Leeds United at the minute on a project, which we'll have a chat about in a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm really, really positive. So I was one of the very few that was glad to see Bielsa go. And I think that we can, I think we'll get mid-table, which I'll be delighted with that.
At the moment, you're like 15th, 14th, aren't you, in the league?
Yeah, but I think we're going to click. We're still making a few mistakes defensively, but we're getting there. I can see, I really can see a bit of progress. We've got some brilliant youngsters coming through. Yeah.
I really like Brendan Harrison. Like, he's quality.
Yeah, he's been unlucky not to have scored more, because he's one of them.
Yeah.
Anyone
so quick though.
Football, yeah, he's brilliant. And I think with fantasy football, he's going to come good. And he ain't got as many points yet, but he's going to start chipping in. Who else? Sinisterra, however you pronounce
Rodrigo.
it.
Yeah, I know he started off so well.
Again, I tipped that he was in my fantasy team, and I went, as soon as we lost Bielsa, because I can play football, and I said, as soon as different manager in, he's going to start banging in the goals. And he's thankfully he's proved me right. But last year with the relegation battle, there's a couple of videos of me on social media, and there's one I didn't know my wife was filming. I'm just having like a bit of a breakdown on me. Praying to any god.
It was pretty close.
Who are you praying to? I don't care. Just someone that we can't go down. I can't have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's yeah. I mean, like I said, I'd settle for a really boring middle of the road season. That if our season's over by March, I'll be delighted.
I have a soft spot for Jesse Marsh, man. Like, just the way, like, his interviews, they always crack me up. He's got personality, that's for sure. And I think he's really settling into, like, the game in England.
100%. And he's passionate. I mean, I love when he got the red card at Brentford. I thought that was fantastic, and he was right as well. He just went up to referee, but you got it wrong.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it was sort of like, yeah, no, you did get it wrong, because even VAR got it wrong. Now, can you imagine VAR getting something wrong? It wouldn't happen, would it, in this day and age?
Never, no.
When you're looking at top flight or international football, can you imagine?
No, mate, not at all. VAR gets it right all the time. It's not ruining the game at all, as most people will say.
And speaking of dodgy refs, over to the World Cup, it was heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking.
Man, honestly, I was devastated. Like, we played better. Like, you can't deny it. It's not just us being biased or anything, because we support England, but especially that second half, like Bellingham, Saka, Harry Kane was brilliant. I know he missed a penalty, unfortunately, but he played a good game.
Yeah, well, do you know what? It's the first time I've seen an English player miss a penalty and not. Are you allowed to swear on this? I don't know.
Go for it. Go for it, mate.
Basically, not get cunted off.
Yeah.
Like normally. And as he missed it, and I've seen it every time an England player misses a penalty, the whole room goes mental. They spit a bit of cup. They don't necessarily mean it, and I'm not saying it's wrong. But when he missed it, everyone was just genuinely gutted for Kane.
Yeah.
And if anyone, I think when Stuart Pearce missed one,
remember when Southgate missed it? Like he had to do that was it Domino's advert? We had to mock him missing it.
Yeah, but I just think he was so undeserving of missing a penalty.
Yeah.
Because he is brilliant and he played well.
And they should that first goal should have stand from France anyway. Like Saka was fouled.
Yeah, it was a joke, wasn't it?
It was a joke, and just.
We had another penalty. We had a couple of free kicks.
Fouls, and just should have been a red card, and just bonkers.
And that, it shows you how good we are. That France, in my opinion, I said all along, it's between England and France to win it.
Yeah.
So they're one of the best teams in the world, and we batter them. I mean, it ain't often in a game where you can legitimately say the other team.
Like Mbappe, one of the best players in the world, was kept quiet in the game. Like Kyle Walker did his job. But I think one moment he out sprinted him, but other than that, he kept Mbappe quiet.
Yeah. I think it's exciting. I genuinely think we're the best team in the world. I think so many. I mean, Bellingham is. I don't know if he's fully human. He's just unreal.
Fantastic, brilliant.
He's just a different.
19 years old. And he's playing like that against seniors and world-class players. Unbelievable. The way he controls it and goes forward and dribbles. And he could do everything in that midfield role. Tackles.
I was watching it with my cousin. And he's like 18. And he plays football Sunday League and he's a coach. I help his team out every once in a while when they're in trouble. And me cousin just looked at his boy and went, "See, you're 18 as well, mate. Let down." And then you've got, I mean, Saka was unreal.
He had a brilliant tournament, Saka. So because of what happened in the Euros as well, for him to overcome that and become one of the best players for England, and get like 3-4 goals, fantastic. I was so proud of the lad because I'm an Arsenal fan. So I was just that's my boy.
See the abuse he got, and to sort of
bounce back from it.
Difference with this lot as well. The younger ones coming through.
Yeah,
I think learned from the Gascoignes. They've learned from even Beckham to an extent. When he had the kicking out and he got the effigy of him was burnt and whatnot. I think because that generation were the first lot of footballers to become superstars in that sense, they didn't really cope with it. The media was changing. When now they're schooled of it from a young age. So I think your Sakas, your Bellinghams, your Foden, who I think is unbelievably gifted. They know how to deal with life and the money and
for those they have good people around them as well to sort of comfort them as well. And most of I think it's unfortunately it's a few bad apples that go out their way to sort of abuse the players, but most people will be on the players' side. I think boxing's similar as well. You look at like Mike Tyson when he come through, and that entourage, he had all the people sort of milking him, the mental health that goes with it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people go, but they ain't got it hard. They should try working on the railways or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I do get that completely. But it's a different kind of pressure. They're still human.
Yeah, exactly. Saka, what was he, 18 when he missed that penalty?
Yeah, like 18, 19. Like just a teenager still.
And he's let himself down in the sense of he can score penalties. He's let his country down in the sense of we're no longer in that tournament. How do you, to be up there, to be shot down, and to bounce back, I think it's brilliant. And I think it's a lot for what the people back. So you've got your psychologists, sports psychologists, and all. And
even the manager as well, like your teammates, and for Saka, like one of the best players last season, in my opinion. This season he's been fantastic for England. He's turned it on, and the boy's only 2021. Like honestly, I know we talk about Bellingham, but Saka, that future ahead of him.
Yeah,
scratch the surface.
Yeah, all of my lot are like, a lot of my family. My mum's lot are all Millwall. My dad's lot are mainly Arsenal.
Hey, and at the start, shout to your dad.
I'm still breaking. But I said at the start of the thing, I think Saka's the best player in the world. I wouldn't swap him for anyone. We got him for 10 years on that wing. I wouldn't swap him. And as soon as the French game started, and they mobbed him, weren't it? Every time he got the ball, it was like ABH and GBH.
Honestly.
And but that's the respect. That's not a.
But because they knew he was dangerous, they knew what he was capable of.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't agree with it, but I can understand why, and there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and listen, that's what you do. If you've got a player that scares the life out of you, you put 2 or 3 players on him, and if the ref lets it go, I don't agree with it. But if the ref is letting it go and you can kick the fella, I don't think it's to do him harm. I think it's literally, if I can take the ball off you fairly, I will, but I can't, so I'm going to kick you.
Yeah.
And they bullied him because, well, they tried to. And I think, as a 19-year-old, I hope he's at home now watching that game back and thinking, what a mark of respect. I'm playing one of the best 100%. Teams in the world.
Yeah.
And they, they're petrified of me.
Yeah.
So, I think we're going to go on to be a real. Well,
I want Southgate to stay for another tournament at least. Like, I know there's a mob out there, Southgate out. I can kind of understand where they're coming from, but look what he's achieved in the last 6 years. For him to the last few tournaments like before him were just dreadful, depressing stuff. That Iceland game for me was just like at its peak. You can't get any lower.
I don't remember that. I blocked it out of my memory.
I don't blame you, man.
It was bad. It was as bad as, like, when someone in the family dies that day. That was
just.
But I tell you what he's done well is because I'm a bit on the fence because I can see both sides. What he's done is he's turned England into a club.
Yeah.
Where it's no longer, back in the day, you had the Man United fans there, the Liverpool United players, Liverpool players there. They
wouldn't actually talk to each other when they're at the games, or training.
He's made it a club. He's brought the media in, which is genius. The media used to be, now he's made England almost part of the media. I do think the thing that I think sometimes we are a bit negative.
Yeah.
Even with France, I think when we scored, the minute we scored, we sort of sat back a bit like we did against Croatia.
Yeah.
So I can see the argument for it. And a few people I know are saying, like Eddie Howe, which I don't know if we get him, but what he's done.
Not anytime soon. I can see why people want him. He's a great manager, English manager, but he's not leaving Newcastle anytime soon now with what he's doing over there. And with that budget, he's like, look, I love my country, but I love money more.
No, but I think, Southgate can only get credit for what he does. You can't knock it. But again, he's also lucky that I genuinely believe he's got an unbelievable
so much talent there, and they're still coming through now. But I want him to stay at least for another tournament. But I'm so glad we got to have the football talk as well. But one thing you did mention, Mike Tyson, boxing. Before you became an actor, you were actually a boxer.
Well, yeah, loosely.
Tell me more.
Well, I don't like getting hit. Which is
a boxer who didn't like getting it.
You know what I mean? It's a bit of a job problem, isn't it? No, I come from a family of boxers. So granddad ran, there was a big boxing club in Bermondsey called Silwood.
Yeah.
And my granddad run that, and he owned it and used to train at it. My uncle was an unbelievable boxer, champion. He there was the local champion around our way was a guy called Jimmy Cable, who was, and my uncle beat him 3 or 4 times. He was very good. And then me granddad's cousin was ABA champion, but he was called Richard Head. So if your name's Dickhead, you've got to be out of box, and you come on. Like, what were they thinking?
Got you. The boxer doesn't like being hit, and then you got the name.
Yeah, Richard Head. Why are we going to call him that? We're toughen him up. And then then it come to me, and I was lazy.
Yeah.
And I had a few fights and did, like, only low level, and I sort of won it. And then I thought I was quite good. And then I had one fight with this fella that went on to the Olympic squad. Bashed the life out of me. He absolutely. I mean, when we first or second round, he's done me with a jab, and he's hit me twice because I felt 2, but I only saw 1. So I heard it twice, I felt it twice. And the head guards that I hate, as it spun, I'm like over there and he's in front of me. I didn't know what day of the week it was.
No shame though, an Olympian, so it's not
He absolutely bashed me. I remember I sat in the little room afterwards all by myself, feeling sorry for me. And my granddad just stuck his head in and went, "Son, you're never going to be a boxer, mate. You're going to have to learn to rob banks," and just shut the door. Yeah, and then that was it. That was my
that was your boxing career then.
And the training. Actually, I said I'd rather be it than go on the running and all the just.
People don't realize how important cardio actually is in boxing. It's so important.
Yeah, it's the I did it again. I broke my arm quite badly playing football.
Yeah,
and I went back to it afterwards, and I thought, I sort of got it, and only for fitness. And you don't realise it's not only that it is the fit; it's also just even holding the gloves up when you've got the fairly heavy gloves on.
Yeah,
ain't a lot. But when you're doing that and you're moving and
constantly as well, it's not just like that's it, take a break. It's like non-stop.
If you could call a bit of a, like when I play with my girls, they say what they call home where when they jump on it, I can't get them.
Yeah.
If you had a part of the ring saying, "Nah, fine nights can't hit me,"
you'll get back into boxing that way then.
Yeah. If I'm standing there, just go away. Just give me 2 seconds.
Eddie Hearn, you're listening to this. Change the game to this.
Yeah, sort it out. If I can just have 15 seconds to remember my name, eat a crisp cream, and take a breath, and then I'll deal with you in a minute. You'll
put the acting to another side now, but you get back into it. No, that's awesome, man. That is that's pretty cool. I want to know then, like, what led you to acting? What pursued you? Like, was there any influences you that okay, I actually want to do this? Did you know from a young age, or just also want to pinpoint this?
As I was a young boy, like 3, I've always been obsessed with music, singing, music, and stuff like that. And when I was younger, I did a lot of musicals and singing side of it.
Yeah.
I was briefly in a boy band for about 5 minutes that released one song that went nowhere called Unbreakable, and they broke up. That was it.
Is this on YouTube?
No.
Oh.
I did a Christmas film a couple of years ago. We was going to do pantomime, and it all fell through because of COVID. So we turned it into a film.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a film called The Gift on Amazon, where the musical that I wrote.
Hang on, I'm making that as The Gift.
Yeah, it's me singing a gospel song as Widow Twankey. But it's got proper singers in it as well, like Chesney Hawkes, Dane Bowers. It is quite a music was always a love. He was brilliant. Brilliant. So it's always been a passion of mine, and then I sort of forgot about it. Went in, like I said, failed at boxing. Didn't really fancy being taken up the family trade of being an armed robber. Because again, I don't like being it. I don't fancy being banged up either.
Yeah.
And also, I was raised, as much as I joke about it, my family would have been, my granddad would have been devastated if I'd have followed him. And then I went to the Miskin at 18, which is like a drama school, trained by like Frank Harper, Neil Maskell. Still at the time wanting to do musicals, which was, looking back now, was mental. Then I went to London School of Musical Theatre when I was 20 and trained in musical theatre. And I went there because it was in Bermondsey. It was where I grew up. My great nan was there. She lost both her sons the year before, so it was a chance for me to look after her.
Yeah, man.
And then I went into musicals, and I did a couple of bits in the West End, and a few auditions and this, that, and the other. And I hated it, absolutely hated it. And I got an agent for acting because I sort of got to. I remember Tilly Vosborough, who was my acting for camera teacher, went like, "You're the new Ray Winston. What are you doing here? Why are you singing? Why have you got hair like Michael Bourne singing with vibrato? What are you thinking?" And you're 20, you know it all. Listen,
yeah.
Listen, all right, I know what I'm doing. And she just left me a note on my final day saying, like, if you ever change your mind, here's my number.
Yeah,
I'm always happy to help you. So after 2 years, I remember the final straws. I got down to the final few for Mickey and Blood Brothers in the West End, and they gave it to Anthony Costa, which fair enough. I get, he's a talented guy and he's profile and whatnot. And I just lost it. Went back to my agent, told him to poke it. Well, I ain't doing it again. I'm never singing again. That's it.
Okay, now.
And rung Tilly up and Till, can you help us out? So she got me an agent, but I couldn't get anything because all my credits were West End. Everything on my thing was singing. And then I was there turning up like, no, I want to act. And the guy said to me, he went, "Look, darling," I remember, very flamboyant guy. He went, "You've got to, you have to write something because it's catch-22. You can't get in it without writing it, and you can't." No, you can't get cast without being in something, and you can't be in something without getting cast.
Yeah.
He went, "I suggest you write something." So I went, "All right, mate. Well, look, give me the weekend. I'll knock something up. I'll come in on Monday, and and I think he thought I was joking, but I weren't. So I went away that weekend, and I wrote a play called Worth a Flutter, purely to get me in something. I didn't want to writer.
Was this then your first stage role then?
Yeah.
This film that you were writing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I went away, wrote it, come back on the Monday, went, "There's my script," 90-page, 100-page script.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought I was joking. "Well, look, do me a favour, read it. If it's any good, it's any good. If it ain't, we crack on."
Yeah.
And he rang me back that afternoon. "Well, look, I've read it. It's really good. I've got a director that wants to do it." He went, "I've also got you a theatre that wants to put it on." So that was, and I played the lead role in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was how the writing started.
Yeah.
Then after that, I wrote a musical in a week as a bet, a poker bet. My mate said I would be able to write one, so I did. And that's done 250 shows in London, won awards, this, that, and the other. Then I got commissioned to write The Greater Game, which is a true story about footballers in World War One. And that was when things really sort of got taken seriously. We got sponsored by the British Legion. We got sponsored by the Premier League, the FA, the PFA. It was part of Football Remembers. And that was when it's a great story, unbelievable story. And then that was when things sort of, all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, hang on, I'm getting serious money now to write stuff. I guess I'm a writer." And then I put Worth a Flutter back out, which is like my baby. It's my project that got a West End transfer, 5-star reviews, critically acclaimed, and all that. And then I wrote Time, and I met Dan O'Reilly.
Yep, that's most people know as Dapper Laughs. Yeah,
Dapper Laughs. Yeah, and I remember it come about. I watched the Hatton Garden Job, and the one that was on TV, and I found out they used the tapes that the police done to write it. So a lot of the dialogue was genuine because they nicked it from the tapes. And I was with me nan's fella, who was another villain back in the day, and he went, "Why don't you write something like that?" And I went, "Well, I can't, mate." I went, "I'm never going to make a film in my life. And that's done. Yeah, that's my, that's where I live. That's what I do." And he went, "Well, write something." I went, "No, you can't write against the play." I went, "It will never work. It would never happen. It would have to be clever." I went, and then I come up with a twist that's in the film. I don't want to mention it, but I'll come up with that idea.
Yeah.
Like, "Look, John, I'm going to eat your dinner. I've got to go home because I've got this idea." Went home that night and wrote the whole entire script. Then I met Dapper Laughs, Dan, and he reminded me of Elby, who was called The Gentleman Robber, my granddad's brother. And I went, "I've got this play going out in the West End. You'd be perfect for it." So Dan got in it. I didn't even know he was Dapper Laughs at the time. I just knew him through.
Oh, wow, really? Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. So it was his agent come to see Worth a Flutter. Then he went, "I really like your style of writing. You've got to meet one of my clients." And I knew he had, because I've done a few other things with him. So people like Paul Denan, Dane Bowers, Caprice, people that I've worked with as well. So I just met him. Then I cast him that night in Time.
Yeah.
And put the play out. And obviously by the time we were in rehearsals, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
I had an idea of who he was, but I didn't know how big he was. Then everywhere we went, he was getting recognised, people coming up to him. I mean, we did a rehearsal in the Hilton in Dartford, and all the staff were going up to him, like, "Oh, can I have, your photo?" So I realised, and anyway, the play went out, sold out, complete sellout. It did really well, and we got off of the UK #1 tour, up and down the country for 6 months, sort of, 1,000-seat venues. COVID hit, my career's over. I thought, I'm never going to work again. Got to train. And then Dan went, "I'm going to turn it into a film." He rang me up late one night, about 11:30, a bit worse for wear at the time. "All right, mate, okay." Put the phone down. "Oh, Dan reckons he's going to turn it into a film." And my wife went, "He could do it." He went, "If anyone could do it, he could do it." Next thing I know, he's raised a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, got Terry Stone involved, and then
Yeah, and then next thing I got Terry Stone on the phone, mate. I'm going to turn it into a film. Yeah, all right then. And then that was it. Then we're on set, and it was crazy. How COVID in a roundabout way made it happen. So I'm very thankful because 1 minute my career looks like it's over, and I was actually going to consider becoming a history teacher of all things, and then next thing I've got Terry Stone on the phone saying,
let's make this a film. Let's make time a film.
Yeah.
And the film that you are talking about that was made in the pandemic, The Last Heist, which came out last month. I was actually an extra in it. Very short scene. I can't really go too much detail about my bit because it does link to the story. And I thought it was going to be somewhere else, so I didn't have my phone up ready to,
yeah.
But I just kind of had to squeeze that in. Probably won't remember me. I had longer hair then.
No, of course. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I had to take my shoes off because when I was walking, it was so loud. I didn't realize like how heavy my shoes were. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the film itself, it's been well received. IMDb, it's got 8.3. Rotten Tomatoes fan base, it's got I think it's 8%, 90% of the fans liked it. And the film itself, I know you just mentioned about the process, but the actual idea you mentioned about it's relating to your family. What was their sort of feedback? And I'll get to like the fans and your own feedback and the cast, but I just want to know your family's reception to it. Like, we're doing this film, more people are going to be more exposed to the actual story about the family.
Yeah, it was a weird one because, like I said, the people obviously involved are all dead.
Okay.
I would never have made it unless they were dead. Not that it matters because they've all served time for what they've been guilty of and what then they it wouldn't have from a police perspective it wouldn't have mattered, but out of respect for them. But I did talk. The last one that was alive was John, who is Waldorf, who's played by Terry Stone. And I said to him, look, I've wrote this thing. I went, do you want to have a read of it? No, I'm going to read that for you. I trust you. And I said, look, is this okay? And he went, yeah, of course it is. And he was good as gold about it. I think he was quite proud. I mean, I think he'd have loved it. It's a shame he died recently before it came out. So he would have loved it. Seeing Terry play him, I mean, he'd have gave Terry notes. Of course he would have. It was him. But yeah, I think he'd have been proud of it. And then the rest of the family, I think at first they were a bit nervous because they're like, oh, hang on, how's this going to be? And you see a lot of gangster films, and I don't like them as a rule. People going around bashing people up for no reason. And it ain't how things are.
A lot of it's just rise and fall, how they how they get into the business, spend the money, get caught.
Yeah, and they're all 2D guys. There's no
no real character development, no actual emotion.
Yeah. And so I said to him, look, I went, have a watch of it, and especially one because obviously my name is used in the play.
Yeah.
In the film. And I went, I can't be Michael Ed. I went, that's a bit muggy, isn't it? I went, I'm Michael Ed playing Michael Ed.
Yeah.
So I chose Neville, which is the other side of the family's name, like my granddad's mum's name.
Yeah.
And I spoke to John, who was up in Islington a while back. So I spoke to John. He went, "Our film's coming out. Look, I hope you like it." So I pinched your name, but they've all watched it. They've all come. They all love it because what they said was, you do get the heart of it. You do get they saw the play and loved the play because the play was all 100% real stories, and where it's just dialogue, you get more of the stories in there, more characters across. That's just the nature of theatre over film. And they was a bit worried that might be lost, but no, they're all really supportive of it. My uncle, obviously, and it's his mum, his dad, essentially that we're talking about. He's really supportive of it. And yeah, I think I've had no death threats, so I think that that's
still early days, mate. Still early days.
Oh yeah.
Wait till they watch the film over Christmas, and your phone's gonna be blown up.
But no, they have. It's sort of it is what I wanted to do, which is give it a bit of mention sort of the mental health side of things.
Yeah.
Mention the family aspect. And the comedy and the stories because
but the comedy wasn't too much. It was kind of perfect. In my opinion, I thought it was just really well balanced.
It's because you get all these films where you always get the guy, oh, really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
You're in prison. I said this at the time when we very first started talking about, look, when you're banged up, or you're doing 15 years, I went, it don't matter how hard you are. There's always going to be someone harder. And if there ain't, they'll get you,
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't all get you, the police will be. It does happen. Look what happened to the Mad Axeman. It does happen. If they can't handle you, they get rid of you. I said, your best bet is to be entertaining, because all you can do is sit around, tell stories and pass the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I grew up. Obviously, I've never been banged up, but I've spent from the age of, as young as I can remember, going down out for a meal, aged 8, as a younger man in the pub with them. And all they do is tell stories.
Like seeing his characters and hearing about them, just...
Yeah. And the
what
stories
people can only imagine themselves, but they sort of exaggerate it. But you actually were around these people and actually heard the real stories.
Yeah, exactly. And what I found was stories of violence and stories of fighting and stories of our art are never told. The stories that I always heard were the funny ones.
Yeah.
When something went wrong, or when, these stories, and they're the ones that I always think are more interesting. And I was very nervous about making a gangster film.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to be a part of that. And I didn't want to be where the people that I do still know and the people that are still about, I didn't want to embarrass myself to be sat in a room with them and they'll be like, what have you done, you mug? You know what I mean? I wouldn't have, these sort of things. So I wanted to get the heart across, and also the family side of it. My granddad wasn't, he was a businessman, and he did lose everything for a job that, the stuff about him getting banged up for the job he didn't do, that's all true.
Yeah.
And then when he had nothing. So that's what he did. But it weren't, you get the craze and people like that, and that's one side of it. But everyone thinks they're all like that. They're not. Most people are businessmen that do a certain thing. And again, I'm not glamorizing it. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not trying to make it acceptable. I'm just saying I think
you're just being truthful. That's it. It's just kind of how it is.
And that's my granddad. Everything he did was for me. And that's why I would never have done it. If he was still alive, he'd have been, he'd have, of course he would have. Yeah. But he'd have found it funny that I was making films.
Yeah.
But he'd have also been proud of that, because he want me to go down.
Would he have wanted a cameo?
No. He'd have hated it. He'd have the next one I've got coming out, which we'll talk about in a little bit, he'd have wanted part of that 100%, because it's with one of his heroes, which I think is hilarious. So it's just a bit of real life, and I don't know if I've maybe got a bit of a warped perception of it, but it's just what I grew up with. I grew up around these people. I grew up hearing these stories, and my wife and her family, they talk about farming, and her dad worked on the railways. They talk about that. My lot would talk about a job where, do you remember when the bird bit him because he thought he was taking that? Or, do you remember when the guy got jumped? He thought there was no guard dogs, and he got jumped on by this dog, and then the dog licked him because he thought he got jumped on by an Alsatian, and he thought he was going to rip his throat out, and the dog started playing with him. And they're like, why don't you unlock the doors? Hang on a minute, I'm playing with a dog. He was like playing fetch.
Yeah.
Like, hang on. But, so they're the stories that always stuck with me. And I hope that the human side of it.
Definitely. I think with the film itself, as I saw it at the premieres myself and as a guest, and a great turn up, by the way, but the dialogue was brilliant. That's one thing I really liked. I think a lot of gangster films kind of missed that and just sort of go over the top. There was a lot of heart. Some things I don't want to say too much because I'll give it away, but there is definitely a big emotional side to it as well. But the actual robbery scenes, the gangster scenes, as a lot of people would assume that it's all about, they're really done well as well. But the dialogue and the chemistry between the four main guys, yourself and Dan, and Terry's performance, like I think I'm so used to him, Tony Tucker, but for him to give that performance, there was a bit that even got to me, just kind of stayed in me a little bit, and you and Terry, that just kind of stayed with me after the film. And,
when that scene happened, I remember someone I think like it was the first AD. Went, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
But no, listen, credit to all of them because we did film it over such a short space of time.
Yeah.
A film like that should take weeks and weeks.
In a pandemic as well, when it was like shit hot, you have to do like the test and everyone's temperatures and
the main club we had is underneath a railway, so every
I remember that. Like literally, stop.
Cool. You know what I mean? So it was it credit to Dan.
Yeah, great director.
Class and Cos was fantastic. Lucinda,
that's the name. Sorry, that forgot.
No, credit to all of them. It was and it was nervous because I know it's only Dan's second film, first film in a long time. It was
we did that zombie prison film, wasn't it? Like that was it. Something.
In Another Life, Dan did that, and then it was my first film, so I was very nervous, and it's a big role for your first.
Yeah.
I've done cameos, but my first proper main part. So it was brilliant. Fair play to everyone, and it's so nice to see how it's been received.
Been well received. Like just as I said, like I always get confused. IMDb 8.3. Many votes, not just one or two. There's loads, like 90% of Rotten Tomatoes. That's a fan base that I'm generally just enjoying this film. I've seen some good critics as well. I myself, I think I did like a really long post about it on Instagram the day after. I think I actually messaged you as well directly after the film. I thought gave a magnificent performance, which it wasn't what I expected for the film to be. I didn't mean it don't mean that in a negative way. I expect it to be a good film, a fun film, but wow, just completely unexpected, but pleasantly surprised, and overall I just loved it. I really loved it.
And it really means a lot to hear that. It was and I think you never know. You never know. Don't want to get carried away. But when we had the one in Marbella, this fella come up, really nice fella, but he can't do for all he went, because you are. He went, you're real. You come from that stock. I come from that stock. We know what it is. We know about this life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, watch it first, mate. I went to ask
and as you watched it.
And he come out to me, really tough looking fella. Worked out. Come out to me afterwards. So, mate, what do you reckon? He went, can I talk to you tomorrow? He was in bits. And I spoke to him. He went, I was inside when my father passed away. When some of the it. And so to have that reaction from someone who knows what it's about.
Hello there, I've got a special announcement from my next guest, and this is definitely not a retake.
This is KC Payne, and you're listening to What Do You Call It podcast.
You heard.